everyone, thank you very much for joining. This webinar is being recorded, so but please feel free if you've got any questions to ask. If you don't want to just chime in with them, put them in the chat, and we'll go through them, and I will edit the recording as well to make sure that you're not that you're not necessarily in it as well, because it will be put on sites and everything. But please do feel free to ask questions whenever they come up. So welcome to our investing webinar. I think it would be great to just start with some introductions. So I'm Naomi Haynes. I'm a financial advisor, and I'm passionate about financially empowering people, helping people get control of their finances, and translate a lot of the jargon out there as well. I've got my contact details on the screen if ever you need anything, but I think we can quickly go over to Sarah.
Thank you. I'm Sarah. I am a director of MCO Bookkeeping and Training and the newly formed Business Finance Mentor. So I work with small businesses and have done as a bookkeeper for the last 9 years. And in my prior life, I was worked in retail banking. So I did everything within retail banking: mortgages, investments, protection, opening accounts, serving the till, making the tea. I did the lot. And in the last 12 months, I've trained to be a financial mindset coach, because I so believe that people need to reframe their mindset around money. We carry far too many stories and far too many beliefs around money that are just that, stories and beliefs. They're not fact, but they guide us and they restrict us in what we do. So I'm passionate about helping people get a better relationship with their finances. I took the jump into self-employment to get a better relationship with my life. So we have to get a better relationship with our money as part of that process. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I think that leads us nicely on to maybe give that example about what a financial coach does. I think you've explained it. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, or in general.
I can do. So as a financial coach, we work with the beliefs and mindsets and stories that we are told from an age at which we are young enough to understand, but not old enough to, well, old enough to understand, but not old enough to challenge. So a lot of the stuff that comes to us and is imprinted on us is before the age of 7. So we don't have the cognitive ability to go, hang on a minute, this isn't right, this doesn't work for me, because this is how we've been brought up. So many of the things that we then deal with as adults, so things like money goes to money and money is the root of all evil, and those beliefs, you don't spend more than you can afford, it's better to give than to receive, I want doesn't get, all of those things are all things that shape us as adults, and then we shape our children with those stories as well. So as a financial coach, I help to unpick the bits that are no longer serving us, that are not part of our story, not part of our challenge, lean into them, but then say goodbye with love to the things that really don't work for us, because some things are holding us back. So that's what I do. It's about your mindset around money and your relationship with money. And once you unpick that, you can step forward in so many areas, not just within money, but within your life, because much of our relationship with money is about our relationship with ourselves. So there you go.
Wow, that is amazing. And actually that's really, I think we really can get into that during the rest of this discussion today. But I guess when it comes to a financial advisor, I think a lot of people don't know what the difference is, but we are very different. And my advice as a financial advisor is basically aimed at putting together the plan and making everything a reality. So it's kind of Sarah helps with that relationship and with that mindset side of it, and a financial advisor would help you kind of put those actions into place from that point of view. So shall we crack on?
Let's do that.
I thought a really good place to start is probably with, and you can comment on this, Sarah, as well, is the pension. And I sometimes refer to it as the P word, because I think that a lot of people automatically hear this word and come up with a glazed expression and start stressing or panicking. But the reason I'm starting with pension to talk about is because most of us have a pension. Particularly those of us that have been in employment at some point in our careers. And I thought that when we're talking about investing, when we're talking about that, a lot of people may say, oh, well, I'm not an investor, I don't have enough money to invest. But actually, if you've already got a pension, then you are already an investor, and therefore it's definitely worth having a discussion as to how are you investing, and is your money doing what you need it to do. So basically all a pension is just a way of saving for the long term. It's a way of saving into retirement. You can't access the money until you're a certain age, and it can pay you an income in retirement, but there's a lot more flexibility around pensions now, and in particular the defined contribution pensions and what you can do with them, and they have a lot of advantages. But Sarah, what have you got to add to that?
I think pensions are a nice way to start investing, especially as women. It's that whole thing about, a lot of women carry the belief about providing for others. It's that natural maternal instinct. We provide for others before we provide for ourselves, that self-giving thing. And that isn't necessarily benefiting us. We do need to provide for ourselves, not just now, as in both our mental health, our financial health, our physical health. We need to obviously take care of that now, but we need to take care of that longer term and going into the future. And I know you're going to come on to it later, but women live longer than men. We have to provide for ourselves, and in turn provide for our children going forward. I know we're only meant to provide for them up until the age of sort of 18 or 21, but my mum said to me the other day, the challenge doesn't go away even when you're a grown-up, in inverted commas. It's just a different challenge. And to be able to say, actually, I could help my children with investments, with their children, in some financial way, a pension is a great way to start with that.
That's great. And also we've already got questions, so it's something we're going to touch on later as we talk about investments and growth and compounding in time and everything. So I will touch on it there, but if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or to ask as well. There's no issues with any of that. But thank you very much for that, Sarah, as well. So I thought I'd just give some of the examples of why I love pensions myself. So I do put my hand up and do think that they're great. First of all, pensions, you have tax relief from the government that, depending on your own circumstances, will change the amount of tax relief that you get. But in the end, even if you're not a taxpayer, you can still get tax relief. So there is an element of a government giveaway within this. Pension funds will grow free of all UK income and capital gains tax. They are great for long-term investing. And actually, when it comes to capital growth, which is actually what this question was about capital growth versus income generation, and pensions are a great way to kind of talk about that, because within a pension, you can grow your capital, you can grow what's been put in there over time. It's going to be free of taxes when it comes to that side of things. It's long-term investing. So it is a really great way to take advantage of compounding, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And don't worry if you don't understand what anything is as well. That's why I'm here to explain things. But when it's time to generate an income from your pension, there are advantages as well. You can either get a tax-free lump sum, which you can take out of your pension, but you can also invest or get an annuity with the rest, and it depends on your circumstances and what you do. That income in retirement can come from many different ways. So you can just take that tax-free lump sum out and you can do something with that, but other times there's lots of other options that are definitely going to be person specific when it comes to retirement. So it's worth seeking advice, speaking to someone about that, and that could be a financial coach, it could be a financial advisor, depends on your circumstances as well, but I would definitely get advice on that. Pensions, if you're employed, you also get employer contributions as well, and they're really good for estate planning. They are outside of your estate for tax purposes, which means that there's no inheritance tax to pay, and you can pass on pensions, therefore, tax efficiently throughout the generations. Anything else to add on that, Sarah?
Just putting my bookkeeper hat on, they're also a really good way. If you're a limited company, if you run a company scheme, they're a great way to reduce your corporation tax, yes, because it counts as a business expense, so you can reduce your corporation tax whilst investing in your future. So just with that hat on, that's the only point I would make on that.
No, brilliant, thank you. And also thinking about limited companies, but actually a pension is also away from you in the case of bankruptcy as well. So that is also something not to worry about. If anything does happen with your finances, you also know that your retirement, your hard-earned retirement pot is going to be safe. I wanted to talk about the gender pension gap, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's basically the average pension for a woman at retirement is less than the average pension for a man. So basically women are likely to have on average less to see them through retirement than men. Now we also know that women live longer, so there's lots of reasons to be in shock about that, but what I wanted to do to highlight it is to explain that it exists, and therefore it highlights the fact that pensions are really important for women as well as men, but just trying to work out why there is a pension gap as well. So I'll touch on some of the reasons. There is a pension gap. We know that there's a gender pay gap. Therefore, naturally, that can transition into a pension gap. If you're earning less money, then you're going to be contributing less into your pension. Highly likely scenario. But there are lots and lots of other reasons why that gender pension gap exists. It exists, yes, because maybe women take career breaks, they're more likely to be carers of both children but also the older generation, but there are lots of other reasons. Women tend to have higher medical bills during divorce situations. It tends to be women that don't always look at pension sharing. Lots of reasons, but I also know that Sarah, you're going to have some more reasons as well.
Yeah, and lots of things that a lot of it does come back to that mindset of it's better to give than receive. And even if you are on a break or you're caring for small children or for elderly relatives and your income is reduced, it's not necessarily a priority to do that. It's not a mindset that where you're like, we'll invest for the future. Women very much live in the moment of small children, elderly relatives. And that's not just a here and now situation. That's a situation that goes back generations. Women are traditionally the carers, and women have traditionally taken that role. And although equality is forging through us, we all know that feeling of mummy guilt when we go to work and we go and do stuff, or when we go and get our nails done, or we go and do something nice for us. There is that thing of, why haven't, we're not, what we're doing now is stopping a provision for somebody else to do something or for something in the future. And a lot of what we value in life, especially when it comes to money, is a reflection of they say our net worth is a reflection of our self-worth. So these things are not necessarily about the money, the pension, the whatever. It's about how we see ourselves, both in our own skin and in the community as a wider situation. So yeah, women will live longer in most instances. But we also need to look after ourselves and look after our finances and look after our mindset about how that happens, and plan for those eventualities. And they are things that we can dig into and we can find out, and you can actually work out which things are from you, from your mother, your grandmother. It's a really interesting conversation if you actually ask, if you've got some strange thing that goes on in your family. It's a really strange place to go back and say to your mum, well, why do we do this? Why is it? And it's, where has this come from? And often I have a situation in my family where my mother brought us up with some really odd ideas, and well, where do these come from? Was it about scarcity? Was it about lack? And when I asked her the question, she went, no, it's just the way your nan did it. And it was like, that's really, so it was a place of scarcity and lack, but not in my generation or my mum's generation. It was a post-war rationing situation that had been brought through. So once you get your mindset straight and you change the way you think about some things, you're not just changing it for you, you're changing things for future generations, which will then help to reduce things like the gender pension gap going forward.
No, that's brilliant. One thing I do want to also say is it's rarely too late to do something about this. I have a lot of people that then their mindset, or they come around and go, oh, I've left it too late. Well, first of all, it's really unlikely going to be too late. With me, with a pension, the oldest that you can contribute is just up to your 75th birthday. And so, as you can imagine, the oldest that I have invested for someone was a lady just before her 75th birthday into a pension. So it's always worth asking the question. And thank you. We've also got a question in terms of how much is the minimum you can invest in a pension monthly. It depends on the provider, but it can be down to quite a low amount, £20 a month sometimes, but it's definitely something to check out with the actual provider, because they will. So I know you know this, Sarah, but anyone watching, you may know that I love my analogies. So for me, when it comes to investing, the big question is, how hard is your money working? Now, a lot of people, so with my analogy, my question goes to, is your money sitting on a beach and you're there serving it cocktails, or have you got your money in the gym and is it working for you? Because the fact is that people, we all work hard for our money. So I know that people watching this, that you've worked hard to earn your money, the money that you have. Sweat, tears in some cases have gone into it, and it's really important to make sure that it's working hard back for you and that it's not just hanging out, not doing anything. And so, taking my analogy a little bit further, so yes, you need to get your money in the gym, but obviously everyone is different, therefore a different gym program is going to be appropriate for different people for different goals and aims. And it's really important to make sure your money is not just working hard for you, but it's working in the right way and that it's regularly reviewed. So very much like a gym program. And actually, I think this also leads back to the question at the beginning that talks about actually how you transition from capital growth to income generation. And again, I think it really is going to be very specific to the people, to the person that's involved in. But when you're investing, you will be looking at what are your goals and aims? What are you looking to achieve? Are you looking to achieve capital growth? And it will just be very different when you're looking at when you're trying to look and get a different goal for that. And income generation would be something very much used in retirement. So you would be looking at different risk levels, you would be looking at lots of different aspects and practicalities when it comes to that. And again, I always recommend getting the advice, because I'm not going to be able to give the generic advice. I think it's really important to see how long that income generation is going on, how you're looking at capital growth, what your circumstances are, how much you want to be taking out. And actually really important, if you're looking at generating an income, if you are in retirement, I always tend to recommend that you can obviously keep the money that's not being used for income generation to still keep growing and compounding, which is really important. Sarah, what do you have to add to that?
We work hard for money. We've just said that, but there is that element of some people carry the belief that we have to work really hard for money, and that money sometimes that we earn through investment isn't as valuable as money that is earned through hard work. Ultimately, money's money. Money's numbers on a piece of paper, or money is notes and coins in your wallet. It's inanimate. It's just stuff, for want of a better description. But this stuff carries so much emotion with it, because it empowers us to do the things we want to do, or it hinders us in doing the things that we can't do. But with planning, we can. And it is about reviewing our risk, and it is about, are we happy with the money that we're sitting in a bank account where we can see it? And I know you're going to talk about inflation in a minute, but with that money that's sitting there where we're feeding it cocktails, or is it money that we should be investing in a more efficient way that will work harder for us? But we do need to understand that money is just that. It's just stuff that empowers us if we think about it in the right way. But there is a very common belief that money earned through investment doesn't have the same value that money earned through hard work. And that's quite a common view, but it's just all money. It's all stuff. It's all numbers and coins and notes and emotion, but they're all things that are really valuable that we need to unpick.
I love that. Thank you very much, Sarah. Really good messaging. And actually it takes us really nicely on to this next bit, talking about investing for children. And I think a lot of people don't realise, first of all, you can open a bank account, but you can also start a pension and have an investment account. You can have junior ISAs, but also other investment accounts from the day that you're born. That's a great opportunity. Talking about having money in the bank or on the beach and kind of not working, I think a lot of people are also really surprised to know that if your child earns £100 or more in interest in their savings accounts, that is actually still looked at as being viewed as being interest earned by the parents as well, which actually gives more reason to think about investing in a tax efficient way, and we'll talk about that. But basically making sure that your children's money is working hard enough for you as well. I also love helping people invest for their children because it's a great way to financially educate them as well. And I know, Sarah, that you'll have things to say about that from that point of view, that there are knock-on effects. What I would also say is, if you're looking at investing for your children, and this kind of harks back to what you said near the beginning, Sarah, think about the analogies, I like them, of oxygen mask on a plane. Do look after yourself first. If you're thinking about starting a pension for your child, do you have enough for retirement yourself? Again, always that oxygen mask. Look after yourself first before your children. But this can be a great way. And actually, I think that investing for children is a good way also to kind of close that gender pension gap as well, and to look at that, because as I say, it's never too late. It's also never too early as well. Sarah?
Money and how to deal with money and the emotion around money, I believe, is a big area that isn't even touched on in schools. They teach us all the things that we never need, Pythagoras and algebra and all those things, Kings of England, all those things that we can really easily find on Google. But it's much harder to actually pin down how you feel about money, how money makes you feel, and those messages that you then give to your children. If you come from a place of scarcity and lack, that will be brought forward with your children, and that will either be that they mirror that view of scarcity and lack, or they will go to the other extreme and run debts up to their eyeballs and not be able to manage that, and then carry a whole range of emotions of guilt and shame around that situation as well. We're very much taught about you don't spend more than you've got. But debt is a big thing, and that's a lot of the reason why consumer debt is the way it is, because it's so easy to get hold of, but no one ever teaches you about it. So yeah, having that conversation with children from a really young age about not just about what money is and what it does as in paying bills and saving and compound interest and all of those things, but just about, if you buy this toy, how will that make you feel? Adding an emotion to actually spending that money, other than I shouldn't be doing this, I should be saving this. Because I imagine we've all been in that situation where, I know I have, where my nan used to give me £1 a week and go, don't spend it all at once, because it needed to be treasured. And it's the wrong message in that, as in, yes, it does need to be treasured and it does need to be split, but it's about having those valuable conversations about spending, saving, investing, and giving, because we need to give. Going back to the sustainable investing, we need to give, and we need to teach our children that there's as much joy in giving as there is in receiving. That's what I've got to say, because I could go on forever on this one.
Yeah, no, and I could listen to you forever, because you're absolutely spot on, and it's something that I'm really passionate about as well. And I think that these are such great lessons to be able to pass on to our children. So we've actually already touched on this quite a bit, but I think the big question to ask when it comes to inflation, if you've got £100 in the bank now, what is that going to be able to buy you in 1 year's time? And that is the big question. In the current climate that we're in, we know that prices are going up. We're in an inflationary environment. Basically, keeping money in the bank, and yes, we should all have some money in the bank, because we do need emergency fund or rainy day funds. We do need money that's there for an emergency. That's really important. But we also need to come to terms with the fact that in an inflationary environment, money in the bank is losing value. And when it comes to investing, I know a lot of people worry about losing money, but actually if we know that that's going to happen in the bank, then maybe that at least gives us the opportunity to think a little bit more openly about investing and what we can be doing with that money instead. Sarah?
When we talk about losing money, that creates a whole range of emotions for a lot of people, because money is the thing that keeps us stable. It keeps the roof over our head, it feeds us, it clothes us, it gives us what we need to survive. It's basically one of the basic needs that we need to exist. So I can totally understand why there is an element of perceived risk in losing money, but it's leaving your money sitting in a bank account paying you 0.nothing. Your £100 is not going to earn you, or not going to buy, probably by the end of the year, it's not going to buy what it would buy now with inflation the way it is. We've all seen over the last few weeks just how much food shopping's gone up. Let's not worry about gas and electric that's in the meter, but if you look at how much food shopping has gone up in the last 6 to 8 weeks, it's immense. That money is being eroded before your very eyes. It's almost like magic. And that's something that people don't realise. And that isn't even a mindset thing, that's just fact. We need to be making our money work harder. So if we then add inflation into the mix, your money is losing, whereas it could be doing so much more to help you plan for the future and to help you fulfill the financial goals that you've got in mind.
No, I think that's really important. And someone once asked a question of their audience: would you rather definitely lose money or maybe lose money? I think is when it comes to that. And when it's put that way, I think it does make a big difference to how we look at investing from that point of view. We've touched on this, and yes, we are living longer, so we need our money to last us longer. When I talk to people in particular about retirement, and when we get onto this, I think that the one question that they don't expect is, when you talk about protecting yourself about what can happen in the future, it's like, are you protected against living too long? And I think what a lot of people are like, what do you mean? How can that be a negative? How do you want to protect yourself from living too long? That's great, isn't it? But actually, the one thing that can happen is that we can run out of money if we don't have enough waiting for us. And I hope it's wonderful to think that we could that the possibility of a 100-year life is so much higher. I mean, my grandmother-in-law is 102 this year, so it's around us, and I hope it happens to everyone I know. But we can run out of money and we can live too long. So having a look and using that investing for our gain is really important. Sarah.
And I think with that as well, it's not just about do you want to have enough money in retirement, but I also think it's about, yes, we're living longer, but we're also healthier. So retirement goes on longer. So you also need to sort of ask the question, not just about how much do I want and how much do I need. It's about, how do I want to feel? What do I want to do? We spend so much time working that we go, oh, when we retire, we'll go to Spain and we'll do this and we'll do that. But if we haven't got the money to do those things, then what have we worked for? To sit and watch TV? Certainly not part of my plan. But as much as it'd be nice, sometimes it is that, lots of retired people have got plans, but you need to have the financial backing to be able to go, I'm going to watch TV today, or I'd really like to go and tour the Cotswolds and find some nice pubs to sit and have lunch in and do those sorts of things. But it's because it's as much about how you feel in retirement and what you want to achieve in retirement as it is about having enough money to pay the bills.
That's so brilliant, and it's so true and so important. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that as well. So thank you. That's great. Talking about compounding and time, compounding is a way that the longer we invest, basically, if you invest, compounding it's that snowball effect. It's when you get returns on your returns. So compounding can be really valuable, and over time can be quite powerful as well. And I love that expression, that the importance when you're investing is to have time in the markets and not think about timing the markets. And that's really important. At the moment, we're going through volatility. We're going through the markets having a wobble. And I think it's really important to just stop and to think that this isn't about timing and trying to take out, put back in and change things around, but just thinking about this is for the long term, and that is what tends to and historically has shown us even things out over time. And obviously what's happened in the past doesn't reflect on what the future can bring, but I think that is really important. If you've got time on your side, if you're invested, you will have the benefits of compounding, and compounding can really make what some people consider small amounts of money into what this the same people consider large amounts of money. And that's also where it comes in. A lot of people that say, I don't have enough money to invest, that actually compounding can have a huge impact on that. Sarah?
The thing with that is about, it's riding out that fear, because we all have that fear of losing. We all have that fear of losing our money. But by realizing that fear is just a moment in time, it is just an emotion that we need to ride out, because you should never take your money out when things are volatile, because you just shouldn't. It's about riding the market out. But our brain is designed to keep us safe. So those emotions are totally justified, but you should never do anything rash when things are fearful or hard or particularly difficult. And things at the moment are difficult. There is, as Naomi just said, there is so much volatility. With the situation in Russia, with the energy prices, with food, with so much, there is a lot of caution and a lot of fear that is out there. But if you can ride the fear, you're still going to be better off than leaving your money sitting in a 0.0 account or stashed in your wallet, because it's just, that fear is natural. It's a totally normal feeling, but it is something that needs to be worked through.
No, very much so. Very much so. The last thing I wanted to talk about as well is that's fine. The last thing I want to talk about is actually tax efficiency. That we can talk about investing. It is really important to invest, but you do have options. For some people, these different options on how to invest, where to invest, can feel quite overwhelming, because as well as having pensions, there are other options as well. You can have different wrappers. And what a wrapper is, for those that don't know, really, if you think of your investment, if it's a pot of money, you can wrap around it different environments that may have different tax effects on that investment, on that pot of money. So you can have ISAs, so individual savings accounts. You can have junior ISAs as well. You can have unit trusts, investment bonds. There are lots of different things that you can do with your money. And actually, if I go back to that question on capital growth versus income generation as well, the different wrappers can have a huge impact on making that move. And sometimes it's important to think about it in advance, or to at least have a look and see whether actually shifting wrappers, or depending on what wrapper you're in, it may lead to a different result in how to generate that income that you've got. And just talking about them all, there's trusts. You can invest offshore, onshore. There are tax efficient investments as well, so different things that you can invest in. So yes, it can appear confusing again, but that's what getting advice and speaking to the right professionals is all about, so that you don't feel overwhelmed by those choices that are out there, because there's going to be at least one option that's suitable for you. Sarah?
And I think this thing about, are you an investor? So many people will say, people like me don't invest. People like me don't do those sorts of transactions. Anyone can be an investor. There seems to be a mindset in talking to people that a certain type of person is an investor. Why shouldn't it be you? And that's what I ask people. Why not you? What stops you being different to anybody else? Because we all have that ability to do that. And it does come back to the thing about money earned through investments is different to money earned from hard work. And the whole thing about money goes to money. There is a certain element of, oh, people like me just don't do that. We just don't do that. And it's that, but why not? There's a mindset issue within that. And it all comes back to a self-worth and digging and uncovering, why not? Why is this person not seeing themselves as an investor?
No, very, very true. And so I think that that finishes what we wanted to talk about, but very, very keen to see if anyone's got any further questions. Thank you for the questions already, but do let us know if there's anything else. You can either pipe up and talk, chuck it on the chat, or not. Whilst I'm waiting, what I will say is, if you do want to find out more, I have a monthly email that I send out on all things financial, and you can sign up via my website if you wanted to hear more about these types of topics. This video will go through some editing, and when it's finalized, it will be going on my YouTube channel as well. So if you want to take another look at that, please do. You can just go onto YouTube and look for Naomi Haynes Financial Planning, and you can see videos from other webinars that I have been on, or just other hints and tips and everything. So feel free to subscribe to it to be notified when something new goes on it. Do you have anything else that you want to say, Sarah?
No, I am just putting it in the chat. If anybody wants to book a discovery call, finds out a bit more about financial coaching and what's involved, then there's a link there for you to pop in and book a chat with me.
And if anyone's watching this on the recording, do you want to just give contact information so that they know how to get
I
in touch?
will put my email address in there, and I'm on Instagram under Business Finance Mentor or Sarah Hayes. You can find me, or MCO Bookkeeping and Training. I've got 3 pages, so you'll be able to find me.
That sounds fantastic. And then for anyone watching, if you're confused, my surname is Haynes, Haynes, and Sarah's surname is Hayes, Hayes. So yeah, it's a coincidence, but please don't get confused if you're trying to look for us or anything. So thank you so much to everyone for joining, and do just get in touch if you need anything.